you have pain on the outside or back of your hip when you're walking, climbing stairs, or when you're lying on that side, it could be hip bursitis or gluteal tendinopathy. As a physical therapist, in today's video, I'm going to show you 3 exercises that can help relieve the pain and 2 exercises that are commonly prescribed but might be making that pain worse. Let's go. But first, let's talk about why this pain might be happening. You have a bony bump on your hip bone called the greater trochanter. At this point, your glute muscles attach to the bone. At the point where a muscle attaches to a bone, it's called a tendon. Underneath these tendons, you have what's called a bursa, which is a fluid-filled sac meant to help reduce friction and add some cushioning. Problems can arise when these tendons become irritated and or compressed. This typically tends to happen due to a muscle strength imbalance, certain positions, or a rapid increase in activity. The bursa can become inflamed, which is where bursitis comes from. But the real source of the pain typically tends to be the tendons, which is where gluteal tendinopathy comes from. Because of the site of where all of this is happening at the greater trochanter, you may also have heard greater trochanteric pain syndrome. The good news is these 3 exercises I'm about to show you can be helpful in all of these situations. This first exercise can be really nice to those tendons, especially if you're having a lot of pain. Stand with your feet about shoulder width apart and try to unlock your knees. From here, without moving your feet, think about sliding or spreading apart the floor right underneath you. So you're essentially thinking about driving your feet to the outside. When you do so, you should feel your glute muscles, your hip muscles activate. You might even feel your thighs and the backs of your thighs or your hamstrings activate as well. Hold for a count of 5 to 10 seconds, rest, and repeat. Stay with me here. Unlock your knees, feet are underneath you in about a shoulder width distance. I like to sit my hips back just ever so slightly, maintaining your full foot on the floor. Think about spreading the floor apart underneath you. Hold for a count of 5 to 10. The longer you hold, the harder this is. Rest and repeat. Now, the beauty of this isometric exercise is you're not doing a ton of movement, which is why your hips tend to really like this. And you can adjust how hard or how much effort you're putting into this. If you have higher pain levels, you might want to stick with just light pressure, trying to spread the floor apart underneath you. Aim for 5 to 10 repetitions once or twice per day. You can also do this in a lying down position if you're just not quite feeling it in the standing position or are experiencing a lot of pain. Start with a pillow underneath your upper thigh and knee for support. Find a belt that you can wrap around your thighs. Think about moving your legs out to the side and pressing against the belt. When you do this, you should feel the outside muscles of your hip contract. You can play around with the positioning of the belt, bringing it a little bit lower just like this, or maybe even bringing it up a little higher. Think about moving your leg as a straight line and not just moving your lower leg. Holding for 5 to 10 seconds for 5 to 10 repetitions. Today's video is sponsored by Oslo's Sleep Buds. Something I hear a lot from this community is how hard it can be to get a good night's sleep. Whether your joints are feeling stiff and achy and keeping you up, you have a busy mind with lots of different thoughts running through your head, or even a partner who snores. And you know that when you don't sleep very well, your joints don't feel very good, and movement can feel so much harder the next day. Oslo's Sleep Buds are specifically designed for sleep. Soft, lightweight, and comfortable, even when you're laying on your side. Through the app, you can choose calming sounds, create your own mix, or even set a fade-out timer so the audio gently stops once you're asleep. Getting deeper, more consistent rest can make such a big difference. Your joints feel less pain, less stiffness, and you have more energy for the activities you love. If sleep has been a struggle for you too, I highly encourage checking out Oslo Sleep Buds so you can start your journey to better rest. There's a link down in the description below to learn more. This next exercise is a bridge, which you can do on the floor if you feel comfortable getting up from the floor. You can also use a bed, a couch, or another firm elevated surface. Lie on your back with your knees bent up. Now a bridge is pressing through your heels and lifting your hips off the ground. This is working your hamstrings, the muscles behind your thighs, and your glutes. These muscles are extremely important to support the hip and keep it moving optimally so you're not overstressing certain areas. One common mistake I see with this exercise is keeping an arched back and then trying to lift your hips up. And by an arched back, I mean there's a space between your back and the floor that I could slide my hand underneath. What you want to do first is close that space by tipping your hips back. So now your lower back is in contact with the floor as well as your hips. This helps to engage the core and isolate the muscles that we're trying to reach. Once you've closed that space, think about pushing through both your heels and lifting your hips up as high as you can. Now, if you cannot get your hips up this high, you can modify by simply just lifting your hips as high as you can, even if it's just a little bit off the floor. We're really just working on activating these muscles right here in the back of your thighs and squeezing those glutes. So you'll still get muscle activation even if you can't fully reach extension yet. Here we're aiming for 5 to 10 repetitions, and these shouldn't increase pain, so modify accordingly. Moving your feet out further is going to make this exercise more challenging, as your hamstrings have to work even harder to lift your hips up. If you want to make this easier, you can bring your feet just a little bit closer to your hips and then lift up. Aim for 5 to 10 repetitions, once or twice a day. Now this last exercise is a simple chair squat. Starting at the edge of a firm chair, working to stand up by straightening your knees and squeezing your glutes, bringing your hips forward. This exercise works important muscles to support both the knee and the hip, but also helps to improve your overall mobility, taking stress away from certain areas. You are working to sit down and stand up in a nice controlled manner. The reason I like this exercise is because you can modify it easily by increasing the height of the surface that you're sitting on, by using a cushion, a pillow. So if you're experiencing symptoms or pain from a surface you're standing up from, raise the surface up higher so those muscles don't necessarily have to work as hard and it's a little bit easier to stay in control. You can also use your arms to press up and come down. If you've mastered this and feel pretty good, you can make this more challenging by finding a lower surface and making those muscles work a little harder. No matter what variation you're choosing, aim for 5 to 10 repetitions for 1 to 2 sets. Now, the first exercise that might actually increase your pain, but is commonly given for these conditions, is a clamshell, where you're opening that top leg while keeping your feet together. It was once thought that this exercise strengthens important muscles of the hips, particularly the glutes, taking stress off those tendons and off the bursa. But instead, it actually might do quite the opposite. It doesn't strengthen the muscles as effectively, and it can actually increase the friction and compression you feel at the bursa and tendons. So if this exercise does not feel great to you and actually increases pain, sometimes not even during the exercise, but maybe afterwards, opt for the 3 exercises we just discussed and see if your symptoms improve. The next exercise that might be increasing your symptoms is a common IT band stretch, where you're crossing one leg over and then reaching. The idea here was that this is helping to stretch the IT band, which might be tight and causing compression on the bursa and tendons. But this stretch can actually be a double whammy. And the reason for that is this can actually put more stress on those areas instead of less. And being in this position where this leg is crossing midline puts a lot of those painful structures on stretch. And stretching something that's irritated typically doesn't end well. The idea is, instead of trying to stretch this, strengthen the areas around it so it doesn't feel the need to be so tight, using the 3 exercises we just discussed. Whether you have hip bursitis or gluteal tendinopathy, it's important to not only do the right exercises, but also to avoid the ones that might be increasing pain. Using these 3 exercises maybe every other day when getting started, modifying and adapting based on your symptoms, and avoiding those aggravating exercises, you can set your hip up to calm down and recover much quicker. If you found this video helpful and are looking for more exercises that make your joints, your muscles, and your body feel good, I have a totally free 3-day strength and mobility boost. You'll get 3 follow-along workouts with me that show you some of the best exercises to help keep your joints happy, strong, and mobile. Click the link down in the description below to join. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.